lighting for architects and engineers in the recent past has been that LED lighting can be very, very expensive. And our whole notion is, how do we get to an affordable solution? LED lighting was simply out of range for most churches. It didn't matter who was specifying it. Nobody was putting it in. Today, we have LED lighting for every area in the building and an affordable solution for LED lighting. Obviously, for theatrical fixtures, LED lighting is huge because it takes away so much of the heat generation in a space. But for the house lights, extremely dimmable. For the corridors, for the classrooms, for the offices, there are great solutions that are good color balance solutions, that are affordable solutions in today's pricing. But you have to be very cautious about the way that you purchase this. LED lighting, in many regards, it can still be 2 and 3 and 4 times the cost of normal lighting. We have a different way of purchasing that and a different way of putting that together, which we'll talk about at some point. We also get into environmental projection. That's something else that we want to talk a little bit about on the tech side, where we're using the walls in the space to be able to portray what you can do rather than putting up permanent graphics. I noticed in the walls on the outside here that there's permanent graphics put up for their kids' zones. We're using environmental projection because it's so affordable now to be able to change the scene all the time, to make it changeable and movable. What's current for one generation of kids may not be for the next, or for this year's kids, they're going to get tired of it next year. And so environmental projection allows us to change that as we go along. We talked a little bit about line array before. We've also talked about, hey Tobias, I'm kind of frozen up here, so you can shift us to the next slide. Broadcast streaming. I don't know if you all caught what's going on this morning, but we've got this being broadcast to other individuals in remote locations using Boxcast. That's something that I think there was a brochure that was given to you this morning on how those systems might work. So am I going to just restart here? There we go. Great. Okay. We certainly want to be thinking about how to make our space attractional, making it relevant, energetic, and using all the visual means that we can muster. I think in today's environment is very important for us to be able to figure out, certainly within the context of our third spaces, but in other areas of the building as well. Very important for us to reach this next generation. For us, affordability is a given. If it's not affordable, if it's not a good solution that's going to stand the test of the budget, it's very difficult for us to get involved in that. So for us, we're really pounding that drum all the time. You can see some good examples. This is the church up in Ames. Certainly, technology, right, center, left, and right. We've also got LED lighting in those little squares that are up there. Those lights are color changing all the time. They're dimmable. All those kinds of things can be incorporated as we go along. We also have a program for some churches that might be of interest to you, what we would call an extreme church makeover, where we go in for a short period of time and are able to go in and make dramatic changes in simple ways to a church, perhaps an existing building. An awful lot of groups that we meet with will come to us and say, we've got an older building that we've been blessed/saddled with. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know whether to leave. Even if we do leave, we don't know what to do in the interim period of time, and we just simply can't get millennials to come into this facility. It's a barrier to the younger generation. What do we do? And we'll come in and do a very quick snapshot, try to understand in an affordable way what we do as an interim step to get you towards something that might work, or maybe it's a permanent solution as well, addressing some of the issues that we've talked about here. Using mobile devotionals is huge today, using mobile devices and somehow to whatever extent that we can, plugging into that. I think we've got a short video here talking about mobile devotionals, group texting, mobile giving. I'm going to play that video. I'm kind of frozen up again. There we go.
As a church in the 21st century, you need to find new ways to raise funds, reach out, build relationships, improve communication, and stay connected to the mobile generation. And you have to do all of that without taking away valuable time from your staff. We have good news. Your mobile offers a suite of mobile solutions that let you connect, communicate, and raise funds like never before. But why go mobile? Today, virtually 100% of Americans own a cell phone. With this device, you have the power to reach anyone, anywhere, at any time. Mobile communication may be the only way to connect with younger generations who appear to be glued to their phones 24/7. Now let's take a look at some of our products. First, there's the group text messaging platform, which lets you send text messages to your entire audience as well as specific groups. For example, all parents, your prayer team, or Pastor Dan's Wednesday night class. In addition, your congregation can always communicate with you by sending in prayer requests, questions, or replies to your messages. They can even join a group or sign up for events by sending a simple keyword. Here are a few examples of how you can use this system. Send prayer requests to your prayer team, send out your bulletin or newsletter, sign up volunteers, or send last-minute announcements. Now, let's take a look at collecting tithes and donations. Nowadays, people are increasingly unlikely to carry checkbooks or cash. Luckily, everyone carries a phone. We allow your donors and congregation to make donations in any amount directly from their phones and set up weekly recurring tithes. We include a payment gateway so donations will be added to your bank account without delay. Our giving solutions work on your website as well, and we provide options for you to reward your donors with subscriptions to mobile devotionals and other rewards like ringtones. With smartphones on the rise, your church needs an app. But getting an app doesn't have to be a long and expensive process. With our Greater apps, you're up and running in less than a week. And our apps work on all smartphones, so you don't have to worry about only serving the iPhone or Android users in your congregation. Just like your website, your app can include unlimited pages and lots of different options. Here are just a few. Basic information, text message integration, collect donations, share your calendar, include video sermons, collect information through forms and mobile connection cards, include audio sermons, provide directions to your church, collect prayer requests, blogs, daily Bible reading, social media, and much, much more. Finally, when you combine all these services together, it's like you give any member of your audience a remote control that they can use to connect with your church wherever they are. They can donate, get up-to-date information, connect with you with the click of a button to submit a question or prayer request, and watch or listen to sermons anytime, anywhere. Contact or visit us now for more information, to schedule a webinar, or to set up a free trial.
I'm going to stay away from that speaker so I don't step on the coyote's tail again. I learned about text giving down in South America. I was doing a church of a group down there in Cali, Colombia, a church of 12,000 people whose average household income is $3,000 per year. They were packed about 1,800 people per service into a room that was designed maybe a little bit larger than this. They were sitting literally on each other's laps. And when it came time to actually do the giving, the pastor talked about the time for giving. A few of them got up and went over to the sides and swiped their cards. Everybody else was sitting there just tapping their phones. And I was asking the fellow that I was with, what's going on? And he said, we give by texting. This is a third world country, or a country just coming out of third world, all of whom have phones, all of whom have household incomes a tenth of what we enjoy in America or less, and they're all giving this way. This is this generation. And so it's very important for us to think about what the culture of this generation is. So, church in the 21st century, let's see if I can get linked up here. The whole notion of kids, this third area, the way that we address the needs of the children. As Terry said earlier this morning, the kids in the millennial generation are determining where they go to church. It came out of McDonald's. I'm sorry I didn't make that rule, but that's the way this generation thinks, is they go where the kids want to go because they want their kids to be happy. They want their family to be unified. Family togetherness is extremely important, and if their kids aren't happy, they're not going to put up with their parents in that sort of disagreement. It seems foreign and alien to us in the baby boomer generation or before. That's just the way it is. And so we need to think hard about the way that we connect to kids. The whole notion of indoor playgrounds, We have a church that we're working with up in Minnesota who has put in an indoor playground in about 10 years ago, and it seems crazy to do that sort of a thing because of the cost of these indoor playgrounds. This church found a very unique solution to that in that they lease their space out for birthday parties, both to people in the church and outside. It's now become sort of a cultural institution in that community north of Minneapolis. They have garnered income for their church to the tune in the hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of the last 10 years through this, which has more than paid for the cost of this indoor playground. But what it's really done is it's introduced a lot of unchurched families to their church. They come in now to their church for a birthday party, either at an invitation or for their own child, and they come in there and then they see, boy, this is pretty interesting, and my kid likes it here. They have a playground. They have the kinds of things. And so they've made it a sustainable solution at the same time that they're using it as an outreach tool for young families and making it a user-friendly environment for this millennial generation. Certainly security cannot be underemphasized with this generation. You've got to have a secure solution, the way that you check kids in, the way that you protect kids. This has become a problem area for estranged parents coming in and taking kids out of church environment. That's their most vulnerable time, their least protected time during the week. So they will oftentimes come into those situations. This is a church that we did up in Portland, Oregon, a church that is actually built in a warehouse district but has a large number of people streaming by every day, and they put their playground space right front and center to the building so that people see it, and it's communicated very visually to them. This is a church that values kids, and this is a place where your kids are going to be welcome. Come on in, young families, and they do. They come into this church. This is a place that makes a lot of sense to young families. Themed areas. Again, some of these are using rather expensive groups that come in and will do theming ideas. Other folks are turning now to this visual projection type situations for wall surfaces and so forth because they can change them so readily and make them flexible. I'll just show you a few more examples of these. See if I can get that to roll. Nope. There we go. Thanks, guys. Good example of folks checking their kids in. I was actually there. I shot this photograph there the day that this man and woman were checking their kids in, and that guy could not figure that computer out for his life, and that little boy was standing there correcting him all the way through, trying to get him moving along so they could get in and he can get to doing what he wanted to do. But there were 6 of these set up, and this was their device for making sure that whoever's going to come pick those kids up was the right person, and for those people that are attending to the needs of those kids and leading those kids knows any special needs, any special issues, and so forth. And so those are the kinds of things. By the way, that's another device that the PDAs is you can get software nowadays through this organization that allows moms to be texted, whether they're not just if their kid's in trouble, your kid needs to be fed, but your kid's great. He's having a lot of fun here. Texting something positive back to them in the middle of the service, so that if there is any anxiety and a difficult way to understand, these parents will feel anxiety just simply because they're separated. So making sure that they are reassured during the course of the service that everything is okay. They're going to live through this. Seems silly. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. Secure environments, very, very important. And the last topic we'll get through quickly, then we'll eat lunch and I'll wrap up our last session, is designing for men. You've heard this statistic several times this morning. 61% of the adult population in America is women, 39% for men. Certainly that can even be more disparaging in certain situations. And so making sure that we think hard about the choices that we make for men. We're designing spaces that are actually man caves. I actually had the first time I did this was about 9 years ago for a Tongan United Methodist. I don't know if you're familiar with the people of Tonga. Many of them in the NFL. They're all huge guys, big men. Their women are even bigger. I mean, they're large people, really large people. And every Friday night they have a pig roast. The men start cooking the pigs Thursday morning. They'll put 50 pigs in the pit and cook these pigs, and then they'll have a big feast on Fridays. The families all come together. The adults all gather around the big table. They pray for about 45 minutes. Then they all sit down and enjoy their meal. And as the adults finish, The kids sit on the periphery of the big room watching the adults eat. Then the adults step away and the kids come in to finish up. And there's plenty of food left. In fact, there's so much food that they feed off these pigs for the rest of the week. That's where they derive their food from. They meet as large corporate families. Then the women and the kids separate, and the men go into the man cave. In the Tongan culture, they have a big wooden bowl about 3 feet across, and they put kava. Is it kava? I can't remember the name of it. I think it's kava. It's a relaxing drink of some sort of the anti-coffee drink. And they sit around, and many nights they will be there all night, basically talking through their issues. So-and-so, you are not attending to the needs of your family. What is going on with you? They're holding one another accountable to biblical principles. That's their man cave. That's where the men come together and collectively review their lives in the connection to the gospel. The pastor leads that, and it's just part of their cultural heritage. It's been going on for many, many generations. They wouldn't think of not having that kind of space. But when you walk into that church on Sunday morning, there is as many men and as many women in that church and they're all equal. And the families are united, and they are there. And that's crucial to getting families together, is getting the man to come to church. Men are simply different. I don't know who collected these slides. I was looking at them hard this morning. I think that's a pair of scissors on the right in that drill bit, serving as a drill bit as a mixer. Men think differently here. I look at these slides and think how creative men are. I think, for a large part, men do think differently. We need to keep that in mind as we design for space. As Terry mentioned this morning, sometimes women take over. I was up in Britt, Iowa recently with a pastor, and they wanted to create third place. They have an older building. We need to do something. We need to tear these walls out. We need to push this. But by all means, you have got to accommodate what's in this room. And we walked over to this room. He took his keys out. He unlocked it. And I walked into a room that was probably 400 or 500 square feet. Big room, 20 foot by 25 feet or something like that, with racks and racks of silk flowers. And I said, why do we need to accommodate this? Because if we ever got rid of this, the women would skin us alive. I'm sorry, but in today's society, if you want to try to figure out how to get the men in, quit making it look like a funeral parlor. You got to do something different here. I mean, this kind of stuff is great for where the gals hang out. Don't put it in your main lobby space. There is a cultural shift that needs to happen. We did a church up in Summit County, Park City, Utah, right east of my house, 25 miles east of where I live. And the pastor said to us, we want a lodge. We want this to be a ski lodge. Make it look like a ski lodge. Some of the men came in. There was a heavy timber framer in the congregation. He came in. He framed it out. We had stonemasons bring a big fireplace and put natural stone in there from Browns Canyon. It's no surprise you walk into that church and there's an equal number of men to the women, because they made it a place where people walk in. You watch a family come into church, what happens? Family comes in, the women are scanning around looking for the relationships. Who do I know? Or herding kids, grabbing kids. Kids are running around. The men come in and they're doing this. They're checking out the environment. Make the environment friendly for men. Sounds like a simple thing. It's oftentimes overlooked because men have abdicated their position in the decorating process of a church. Decorating can be cool. Let's think about how we do that. And we can learn from some of the organizations that have done a good job of that. And so, very important. I like this little cartoon here. Are you sure you don't want a pretty little lamp for your man cave? Man caves integrated in the design. And these spaces can be flexible too. They can be used for other purposes. You don't want to just make it so that the men come in there for a couple hours a week. Use it for other things. Make it an expanded green room. You can use it on Sunday mornings. But make it so that that space is a space where men feel welcome. There's probably technology in the room. There's probably a big screen in there. If somebody wants to turn on a game at some point in time, let it happen. It's okay. We can incorporate that. It's a good way to incorporate men. We design by charrette. We go out. I just finished a 3-day charrette in Florida, designing 95,000 square feet. Whenever we design on-site using this process. It's a time where we certainly have a amplified amount of free-flowing of ideas. We have a lot of creativity that happens. We are incorporating the ideas not just from the architects, but also from the owners. We invite multiple owners in. We want them to speak freely, tell us what works for them, what doesn't. We want the contractors to be able to talk, even outside their area of expertise. If James or Eric or any of the guys from Strickland want to talk to us about we don't like the looks of it, that's okay. We don't need to become offended. This isn't our design. It's not a monument to the architect. This is not a monument to the church. This is to the honor and glory of God. And so let's talk openly about these things and figure out how to make them work. And we can make real-time adaptations. I walked in on Monday in this charrette thinking that the single-story scheme was the way to go. I became convinced from somebody in the room that it didn't make sense. Somebody else came up with an idea, and I thought, you know what? That's an idea worth stealing. I like that idea. Let's do that. And so we went a completely different direction. And that's okay. If we let loose of those and don't hold possession of those things, we can do that. And that comes from giving up a portfolio-based mentality as a design guy and letting it become to the honor and glory of God. The charrette process, by the way, doesn't allow us to have very much time to fall in love with our own designs. They come and go so quickly, and the process is so rapid that we don't get into a situation like I did in the old days where I would go off to my office environment, create a design, fall in love with it, come in and present it, and then as soon as somebody started criticizing it, I'm guarding it. This is my design you're talking about. What do you mean change that? Let me tell you why you're wrong and why I'm right. We want to get away from that attitude, and we want to get into a situation where we are modifying and adapting and moving things forward. Certainly we're going to exercise leadership and help in these things, but we want everybody to have an equal say in those kinds of things. So you saw that illustration earlier that we talked about community-centered design, where we walk into that central space and we have all those things available around us. That's something that's going to be very important for us to have. You guys can help me advance that. There we go. Okay. I'm going to skip through these slides. These are basically slides that are showing ideas that we've talked a little bit about this morning. I'm just going a little too fast for this, Tobias. I'm going to have to just have you help me advance to the next ones. This is a design that we did down in Ocoee, Florida, where they have a 24-hour, this is the Orlando House of Prayer, they have a 24-hour prayer vigil every day of the year for 24 hours, and so they have a set-aside prayer room that actually continues while the services are even going on Sundays. They still have a conventional service. Here's an example. These are good examples of the kinds of results that come out of those 3 days. Is you're actually seeing 3D representations of the way that the building looks. There may be options. This particular building went through a number of iterations in that period of time, looking at different options for color, looking at materials, different configurations of the entryway. And I think this is where we ended up finally as we finished up on day 3. Certainly some site master planning issues are looked at. We want to know how the site develops over a period of time. So that's the way that we do it. We have 4 designers in the company, myself, Dave Tyson, Austin Fredrickson, my partner Dan Cook. We all design. I spend a considerable amount of time on the road every year. I've got a design charrette next week in Picayune, Mississippi, one the following week in Kentucky, one the following week in Diamond Bar, California. And we simply go and work with the ministry group and hear their ideas. We do a little homework ahead of the charrette, and then we're able to move things forward. So